record this meeting. And with that, Senator, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, great. Thank you so much. And first of all, let me just say thank you to all of our participants who are here with us today. We have Kelley and Ben and Mayor Haley and Mayor Harwood. All of you are doing such great, important, amazing work to support kids and families to communities in Spokane and Malden and everywhere in Eastern Washington. And I'm really glad to be able to partner with all of you at the federal level to bring some really much needed federal funding back directly to local communities through congressionally directed spending. Because when it comes to knowing what exactly families want to see happen where they live to make life better for themselves and their families, I am certain I know the needs of Washington State better than any well-meaning bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. or some federal building. I do go home to Washington State almost every weekend, and I meet with folks from every part of our state. And by the way, I'm a lifetime Washington State resident. I know our state. And part of the reason why I hold roundtables like this is to hear about all the different ways I can support people in Malden or in Spokane, and then go back to the other Washington and fight for them. So the return of the congressionally directed spending after about 10 years is really a great thing for Eastern Washington State. And I'm really glad that I could secure important federal dollars for the local projects we are here to talk about today. As a senior member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, this is such a huge priority for me, and I'm really excited to announce I was able to secure over $9.25 million for public entities and nonprofits across Eastern Washington. This funding will make a big difference, no question. For Spokane, I was able to secure over $5 million to support education and healthcare training. As I'm sure Kelley will tell you in a minute, our healthcare workforce is seriously fatigued from this pandemic, which has really strained all of our healthcare systems and left our workers burned out and really stretched thin. These federal awards are going to be critical in establishing a new healthcare training facility to address workforce shortages. So making sure we have a strong healthcare workforce is really critical. And I just want everybody to know I recently held a hearing focused on looking for ways to make sure we're supporting our healthcare workers, especially after everything they have done for us. I was also able to secure funding to help set up a Say Yes to Education chapter to serve 10 counties in Eastern Washington. You know, I'm a former community college educator, so helping students who want to get a college degree is really important to me. And it's something that continues to be a priority for me as chair of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, Pensions Committee. So I was really pleased to see the Inovia Foundation get funding it needs to carry out its mission and help make sure young people in Eastern Washington, especially from our rural communities, get the help and the support they need to pursue a college degree. It is really important to me that kids from our rural communities in Eastern Washington have every opportunity that the kids in Seattle get. Another issue that is really important to me is our state's transportation infrastructure, which is why I'm really proud of the $3 million I helped to get to improve the South Barker Road corridor in Spokane Valley. This is a big deal for drivers who time and again have said they want safer roads, less congestion. So this federal funding is going to be really critical in helping to make that happen. And finally, the town of Malden is receiving $3.5 million for a brand new sewer system. This is another project that I'm really glad I could get federal investments for, and I worked with Congresswoman McMorris Rogers on this. You know, families in Malden have really had their lives upended by the wildfire that we saw in 2020, which damaged everything from public buildings to our wastewater systems. And this help and this investment is really critical for the people of Malden who spent the last year and a half plus rebuilding from this devastation. So it's very important to this community has everything it needs to get back on its feet. You know, my job in the Senate is to make sure Spokane's priorities or Malden's priorities are the federal government's priorities, which is why I'm fighting every time I talk with my colleagues about these appropriations bills for the things we need at home. So when I'm in the other Washington, I'm thinking about concrete ways I can work to make life better for people at home. That is always the bottom line for me. So I'm excited to hear personally from all of you about your projects. And Kelley, we're going to start with you, and I can't wait to hear about them.
All right. Thank you, Senator Murray. We are ecstatic to receive this funding to help build what we are calling the Chaz Health Learning Institute. We're currently in the design phase for the development of a 25,000 square foot facility dedicated to healthcare training. This is going to help alleviate the skilled workforce shortage facing healthcare organizations in our region. This dynamic physical space is going to host a multitude of programs to expand and improve the skill sets of healthcare workers, as well as launch new healthcare career pathways for community members from a variety of backgrounds in our area. The Institute will contain clinical space to provide appropriate training for medical, dental, and pharmacy technician apprenticeships, including medical exam rooms and dental operatories, a full sterilization facility, and a laboratory. This will also allow for initial apprentice training to move from our current Chaz Health clinic spaces, which will improve access for patients at our clinic locations. Our registered apprenticeship programs offer on-the-job training and full-time employment while apprentices learn the skills they need to start their career in healthcare. Throughout these one-year programs, apprentices work hands-on with healthcare clinical teams and a coach to provide clinical skills practice, as well as participate in learning labs and classroom study. In addition to apprenticeship programs, the Institute will provide training for IT staff, patient experience staff, and billing staff. It's also going to provide space for large collaborative learning opportunities, breakout skill labs and classrooms, didactics for residency programs like the Chaz Health Nurse Practitioner Residency Program, which is the only accredited program in Eastern Washington of its kind, continuing education for current providers, and certification programs, including CPR and mental health first aid, among others. This space will also enable distance learning opportunities for those who are located outside of the Spokane area. The Learning Institute is going to create opportunities for new apprenticeships as well, and partnerships with other accredited training programs in our area. Plans for the facility will also include telehealth services and medical support teams, which will enable Chaz Health to connect with more patients who have barriers to accessing care within our clinics. We once again want to thank Senator Murray for her leadership in helping to provide this really valuable space to assist in advancing the Spokane area workforce and all of the hardships that the healthcare staff has gone through over the course of this pandemic. And we're just looking forward to creating these great opportunities for our area workforce. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Ben Small.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Kelley, and thank you very much, Honorable Senator Patty Murray. On behalf of Shelley O'Quinn, who is the CEO of the Inovia Foundation, I want to thank you very much and send her regrets for not being here. She is out of the country at this time. The Inovia Foundation is an incubation entity for a supported scholarship initiative that we are calling Launch Northwest, which is based off of the Say Yes model. It will span 20 counties in Washington and Idaho and will impact over 102 school districts. The incentive of a scholarship for graduating high school seniors to post-secondary education or vocational training becomes the real change agent to transform the future trajectory of our communities. Launch Northwest is charged with coordinating wraparound services that break down the barriers to high school completion and post-secondary pursuits. We are committed to 5 core essentials: sustainable scholarship incentive, outcome-based strategic data approach, comprehensive supports to our students and families, a collaborative governance model that puts the onus of change on the communities and not just school districts. And then we are very committed to sustainable funding strategies that will make sure that our efforts continue for years to come. This investment secured for us by Senator Murray will allow us to better serve our rural communities throughout Inovia's service area. Graduation rates in the state of Washington have steadily increased over recent years. Yet our young people pursuing post-secondary credentials or degrees has not kept pace. Launch Northwest will work to create supports for students and families, not just the student alone, but the family across the pathway to post-secondary success. From kindergarten readiness, middle school to high school transition, graduation and entry to college, and the completion of training or degree attainment. Kelley, we hope to be partnering with you as we move forward with Launch Northwest. We will do this by working with communities to build integrated wraparound services for families that break down that barrier to post-secondary success. The barriers that communities themselves have identified to post-secondary success through data analysis, expertise, and the knowledge of their community and parent leaders. Our communities know best what will work for them. Also, the examination of best practice to make sure that we are aligning what we're doing in our communities to the best practices around not only Washington State, but around the United States. As mentioned before, these funds will be invested in our rural communities and will go to solve the unique challenges that rural communities face. The challenges faced by our children in rural settings may be different than those of our urban and suburban communities. The opportunities they have need not be. Communities that choose to tackle these challenges with Launch Northwest avail their graduating students with access to a supported promise scholarship that breaks down the financial barrier to post-secondary pursuits. When we empower our children and families, their opportunities broaden. The communities they live in prosper, and the economy expands. I now turn this to the Honorable Mayor of the City of Spokane Valley, Pam Haley.
Thank you, Ben. Yes, and I'd actually like to thank you for the Inovia grant as well, because our children are going to benefit from that, as well as all children in this area. So thank you. And thank you for spending time with us this morning or early afternoon, and your years and years of support for Spokane Valley priorities. And an even bigger thank you for the $3 million of congressionally directed spending that was awarded to us for the South Barker Road Corridor. Our South Barker Corridor is a rural 2-lane country road. It's old, undersized, out of date, and is definitely not serving the community. As you know, more and more homes have been continued to be built in our city, in Liberty Lake, and across Spokane County, homes that are desperately needed. Existing schools have been renovated, new schools have been built. Ben has done a great job of acquiring property, so we will continue to have new schools built in our area, I know. Overall, the demand on the system is growing, and our existing street just can't keep up. Those CDS funds will support our efforts to widen the road, install sidewalks and bike lanes, and improve the intersections. And those sidewalks and bike lanes are very much needed. Currently, it is a gravel on the side of the road, and it's very unsafe. The corridor is divided into 5 quarter-mile chunks and 3 intersections: Mission to I-90, I-90 to Appleway, Appleway to Sprague, Sprague to 4th, and 4th to 8. We're planning on roundabouts at Sprague, 4th, and 8th. This summer, we're going to construct a roundabout at Sprague and Barker. It was funded with Highway Improvement Safety Program funds and Regional Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality funds. Subsequent corridor improvements require engineering design and right-of-way acquisitions to occur prior to construction. And this is where those CDS funds have become so valuable to our city. CDS funds are a huge boost that leverages our funding efforts to incrementally deliver these improvements. Locally, the city's implemented traffic impact fees that are expected to generate $3.6 million. Given those impact fees and $3 million in CDS funding, the city is looking to close the gap on the remaining $10 million of unsecured project costs. Just this spring, the city submitted 7 unique applications to regional and state programs requesting $15 million. We're crossing our fingers that some of those requests will be successful. The city economic impact to our community. When the spring application awards are announced, the city will evaluate how to best apply the CDS funds to that corridor. Possible applications of the funds can be the needed property acquisitions for the length of the corridor or incremental improvements of street segments and intersections. In closing, the continued implementation of congressionally directed spending has potential to make a huge impact for communities across the county. These funds offer an important boost for local governments and help cities like Spokane Valley to make prioritized investments in their communities. Thank you again. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us today. And thank you for all the help you've been. I'm also a child care provider, and you have been an immense help to us in that field as well. So I'd like to thank you for that. And I believe we are next moving to Dan.
Good morning, folks, as it's still morning in the Pacific Northwest anyway. Thank you, Senator Murray. After our fire on September 7th, 2020, we're destroyed 80% of our town and destroyed 67 homes and all public buildings except our community church. We've been working with your staff and you, and I've spoke to you before when you've assisted us. And I can't tell you thanks enough, because our little town has been beat down, but now we've got the chances to move forward in a positive and effective way. The funds for this sewer system is not quite the same as our wonderful Spokane Valley and Spokane and our other towns in the state. But for us, it's a chance to build. Look at it as we are coming from Missouri in the 1800s, and I'm the wagon master, and wow, somebody said, build a town. And that's what Malden and our citizens and council are doing, is we're building a town from scratch. And without your funding, without your guidance and your teams, it'd be a lot more difficult job. So we thank you. The town of Malden hasn't been just sitting back and waiting. We have a new fire station that should go online in the next week. We have plans for our public service building, which will house the clerk's office, our fire station, and one of the most important buildings, and that's the post office. Little towns, you gather, you meet at the post office, and that's where you learn just what's really going on. Our council is extremely transparent. We are on Facebook Live every meeting. And while it may not sound like a lot, but we will contact and have 17 people to 20 people on a council meeting every 2 weeks. That's how we all work. But for the future, we have to look at this as kind of a realistic way. We conquer things one day, and recovery is one day and one project at a time. And your funding will allow us to make a huge leap and come into the 21st century of saying we are providing safety and health for our citizens. And we thank you for this. So anyone that would like to, please come down and visit us. We're getting ready for an Easter egg hunt. Thank goodness no one has asked me to dress up again. So we'll go forward. Thank you, Senator Murray.
Thank you.
And
All right.
I believe this comes back to you.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you to every single one of you for being such a voice for your own community and fighting for the people in your community. I am always so proud to be your partner and to be your voice here in the United States Senate, fight for your needs, and I will continue to do that. Your projects are all amazing. I can't wait to see them grow and become real and be a part of them. But thank you for being the leaders in your community that you are, to get your community to where it is today. So it's great to hear from all of you.
Okay, thank you.